Hey everybody, it's Erin here, Erin Summ Confidence Coaching and erinsumm.com. I'm interviewing Kim McLaughlin today with Feed Your Soul with Kim McLaughlin, and she's going to comment in just a second here. I just got to wait for her to pop on. So give me just a second, and as soon as Kim gets here, we will get cracking. I'm really excited for our conversation today. We're going to talk about there she is. We're going to talk about yo-yo dieting and how overeating can be connected with your self-worth and all sorts of awesome things. So let's see here. Adding. Hopefully it will all work out perfect. Hey,
Oh my
yay.
gosh.
It's working.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, how are you, Kim?
I'm good. I'm seeing you back there too, and I gotta look straight at you. There you go. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Fabulous. Yes, I can.
Perfect. Yay. I'm so excited for our conversation today. We have lots of things
I
in
am
common
too.
in our businesses. Although we do different things, they're all really blend together. So I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been thinking about that lately with I don't know if anybody knows, we did a podcast together, we've been doing Facebook Lives together, and we go out together, and there's a lot of things that really kind of intersect with the people we work with and kind of how we see things.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start by telling us what you do exactly.
Well, I help people when they're feeling overwhelmed, overloaded, and it shows up in overeating and over dieting. And it's really people that feel this is my people's time of year. I got to tell you, this whole holiday time with the frustration around food and family and how to feel okay about yourself. I talk a lot about the idea of peace with food. And so if anybody feels out of control with food, I'm your girl to help you have peace with food. And it's
Yeah.
like when you talk, Erin, you talk about confidence and you talk about that deeper meaning. That's what I'm talking about too, is that deeper meaning about what food means for you.
Right. Yeah. So tell us, I know a lot of people think diet when they think about, food. So tell us a little bit about how what you do is not a diet and how it's different.
Well, yeah. And so my background actually is I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a doctor. I talk about food, but more in the lines of kind of what works for you and what doesn't. I'm actually a trained psychotherapist. So I have a psychotherapy practice and I also work online coaching with people. And it's what I work with people on is the idea, it's called intuitive eating. And it's really the idea that our bodies, ourselves, when we're born, we already know what works for us. We
Yeah.
know how much to eat. We know when to eat. You cannot make a small child eat when they're not hungry. Also, you cannot make a small child eat beyond fullness.
Mm.
I often talk about my daughter, and when she was little, well, no, still to this day, actually, she'll eat a piece of a candy and she'll leave the rest on the counter and walk away. And that was unbelievably foreign to me. And she still has that inner intuitive knowing of this is what I eat, this is how much I'm going to eat, I'm going to stop when I'm full. When I ask her, I said, do you want any more? She says, no, my tummy's full. And I thought, wow, what a concept. And that's what intuitive eating is back to that inner knowing of what our body needs and what's right for us.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I remember as a kid, my stepdad used to tease me because I would be like in the middle of a meal and I'm like, nope. Like in the middle of a bite, nope, full. 2 bites left on the plate,
Yeah.
not going to eat them,
Well, that's so interesting, Erin, because my mom would say, no offense, Mom, but she'd say, are you sure you want more? Mine was always are you sure you want more? Like, do you want more? You want more
Yeah.
than that? And so I'd have it in front of people. But the other thing that shows up is sneaking it and doing
Mm-hmm.
it. So it's not even always in front of people. It's a bit about sneaking it, which leads to a lot of guilt and shame and just feeling horrible about yourself. So you're the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah. Well, I was then, maybe not so much now, but yeah, I mean, it's an addiction, right? The food can be an addiction, just like any other type of drug or alcohol, right? It's like we feed our face to feed an emotion, to take care of some sort of imbalanced emotion.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because once I started doing this work, I realized that one, we've all been trained, like when we have issues with food, we diet.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle food? You diet. And if you're not on the diet, you're waiting for your next diet, or you're done with diets or whatever it is. But there's this kind of dieting thing. And what I actually found is that there's 6 components to kind of when we're looking at feeding our soul and nurturing ourselves. Is it's physical, emotional, mental, lifestyle, mindfulness, and self-love. And that's why it feels so hard to move beyond overeating and emotional eating, because it's a lot of different things together, and it's trying to balance them all out so that you basically have a whole life imbalanced, because food shows when food's out of balance, we're out of balance.
Right. Right. So how does overeating connect with self-worth? Because I talk a lot about self-worth, and you were like, yeah, that's totally, it connects, right? The overeating with the self-worth.
Well, it's the kind of idea that I'm not good enough, and I don't believe in myself, and it's that deeper feeling of shame, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it's about I don't feel I'm good or I'm not good enough, and so that leads to dieting. Because what happens when we don't feel good about ourselves? We say, "Oh, my body's too fat. I don't like how I look. My food's out of control. I'm going to go on a diet." Well, what we know is that when we go on a diet, I go around a circle. So you start at the diet, restricting, you go around, and what happens at some point, not necessarily right after, but we then binge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, oh, forget it. I'm going to just eat. And then we come back around the circle, and then the shame and guilt of, dang, what did I do? I don't feel good about myself. That's the self-worth you're talking about. I'm pointing like
Mm-hmm.
you're over there, which is where I see you. Sorry. And so the shame, and then what happens when we feel bad about ourselves? Well, the only way I can fix it is I've got to come back up here and diet, and goes around and around and around. And that's all we've known about how to deal with food, is to diet, then binge, then we feel shame, low self-worth, and
Mm-hmm.
then we come back up and we diet again. It's
Right.
just what we do.
Right. So what are some tips from you on how to overcome that cycle? How do we get out of that?
Well, I think first is noticing that you're engaging in that diet. And that's really that mindset of restricting. I actually looked it up before we got on this call, because I was thinking of the idea of dieting, and why do people diet? Well, we diet because that's what we've learned. It's what our society says we're supposed to do. And what people will say is, well, when my body isn't, when I'm overeating, when I'm fat, or my weight isn't whatever it is I think it's supposed to be, I'm supposed to diet. And we bought into that mindset. It's a cultural mindset. It's a societal mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's a business. The diet industry is a business. And I was looking up the latest statistics. It's a $68.2 billion, billion with a B, dollar business. So think about that. Like, there's a business here, and if you think about it, a business wants to stay in business.
Right.
And why is that business growing? And we often in our society don't even challenge that mindset of, I've got to go on a diet. Well, if we look at intuitive eating, we pull out of that idea of a mindset, and we then think, well, what really works?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I talk about intuitive eating. So the starting spot for me is noticing the diet, noticing when you're restricting, noticing when you think I have to buy into this $68 billion business in order to take care of myself. Because the thing is, Erin, everybody, people, if it would have worked, they'd be out of business.
Right.
it wouldn't be growing. It
Right.
wouldn't be a growing business. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's the hard facts.
Right.
So that's why I talk about I call it, the diet hamster wheel, the diet circle, kind of get
Yeah.
off of it. So
Yeah.
that's the starting spot as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And, I always say you can't make a change unless you know, or unless you're aware what the issue is, right? And it's that cycle. It's continuing that cycle. And I think I read
Hmm.
somewhere recently where some companies have changed. They've started putting no high fructose corn syrup on their thing, but they've just changed the name of the ingredient. So that really is still in there, but it's like, really, you just can't
Right.
get away
It's
from.
a change. You know what? The $68 billion business includes the foods. And what I think is fascinating, I was actually listening. I went to a conference this morning on binge eating, and I was listening to a nutritionist. And what they talked about was that now the whole healthy eating, it's a diet in disguise.
Right.
Clean eating can be a diet in disguise. And once again, it's part of the $68 billion business. But to really start looking at, well, wait a second, if it says no high fructose corn syrup, well, what else is in here?
Mm-hmm.
And what is really, and is it more whole foods than these other processed? But also looking at the label, and is it saying it's healthy eating? Is it saying it's low fat? Is it saying it's whatever? But noticing, am I buying into that mindset of restriction, or I've got to change my food in order to be a certain size and just be a more mindful consumer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. You mentioned you watched my video about just be you the other from a couple days ago,
Yes.
and where I was being silly and talking about just be you and how it can really change your life and all those things. And so how is that connected with body image and being happy with yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I got to say, people, I got to give a shout out to Erin. I love the video. I was watching it earlier because I was thinking about what we were going to talk about. And I said, we got to talk about that video, Erin, because it's super cute. But the idea, what I thought of about Just Be You is I thought about how many people are, and this is the part where you and I talk about similar but different things, is what I was thinking of is how many people I work with are afraid to be themselves because they're afraid to be seen. But they're afraid
Mm-hmm.
to be seen. There's the confidence thing, but it's the confidence in how I look, and this idea tied up in my body size, my weight. I'm too fat. I can't wear the clothes. I look terrible. I just binged. I'm bloated. And that there's this layer of lack of confidence based on how I see my body and how I see the physicalness of myself. That's an even different idea than what I was hearing when you were talking. I thought, wow, this is a powerful idea of you be you. And the same thing holds when we're talking about body image and feeling okay in our bodies the way they are. I tell people that you can't get to be whoever you want to be if you're not whoever you are right now. Like, be you. Like, I love that. Be you, but also be in this body that you have because it's magnificent. It
Yeah.
gets you around, it gets you to work, it gets you to help take care of your kids, it gets you to do your business, it helps you have Facebook Live with your friend. I mean, it's the body that I have, and like, if I'm disrespecting or not being okay with it, I'm really dissociating myself from myself.
Right.
And that's the other idea I wanted to share based on what you did in your video, because I think that's another powerful message.
Yeah. Really stepping into loving yourself no matter what, whether you have an extra few pounds on or how you look or how you're showing up, loving yourself no matter what, right? um
Yeah.
and there's always, there always is room for improvement. That's not to say that we're not working on ourselves and doing something to make a change, but it's loving yourself no matter what, where you're at.
Right. And that we don't have to always be on this quest of a lower body size. Like
Yeah.
I'm I have the body I have right now. I do things for me that work well for my body. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the checking in point, is
Right.
being okay with how I am now. How is my food right now? How am I feeling about myself right now? And that creates the opportunity for me to move into whatever that's going to be. And that's not necessarily losing weight.
Yeah.
It can be just like, I'm good. You know, I can do all this. I do all the things I do. I'm good with myself. And just really, because that's the thing, Erin, that people I work with can't even contemplate. Like, Kim, how could I be okay with my body the way it is? I'm fat. I'm obese. I don't look good in clothes. Like, this is how you are. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's not call it bad. Let's just say, this is how I am. And let's
Right.
celebrate it and move on.
Right. And wanted to say something else too. You were saying earlier about, it gets me around, your body gets you around, it gets you on different things that you're doing, it supports you. And so being grateful for the body that you have, for all the ways that it supports you. Right.
I love that. I had
Yeah.
a friend tell me that a long time ago when I told him I just didn't like myself. He held my hand. He says, Kim, these are the arms that hold the pen, that write the notes, that do the thing. Is like, these are good. It's all good. These are the shoulders that, hold you up straight. Let's be okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Um, Anything else any tips that you want to give the ladies or the
Yeah.
people watching, or anything else that's
Yeah,
coming
I
up?
was thinking of actually, as we were talking about all that stuff about dieting and body, is, I just want to kind of do a shout out to anybody who is right now. We're coming up on Halloween. People might
Yes.
see this a lot later, but we're like, what, a week out from Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
working with my daughter on her costume and stuff. So like, we're getting into the Halloween stuff. Um, but we're also, people are talking a lot now about candy and feeling afraid about candy. And that's the thing that I know is showing up. And so I just kind of want to give a shout out that people might be feeling that way. I hear a lot of people right now say they've already bought their candy and they've eaten it all. The
Right.
bags, the big
Mm-hmm.
bags, like,
Yeah.
and to give out in the intention to give it out, but it's
Mm-hmm.
gone and I got a
Right.
week left.
Right.
Or people are not buying candy because they're afraid that they'll eat it before Halloween. So they just stay away. They're afraid. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't bought our Halloween candy, but it's not because I'm not afraid. I just haven't. This is not a big deal right now. But
Yeah.
I don't care. It can be in the house or not, because I'm not going to do it, even if it was the candy that I really like. The
Yeah.
other thing people say is like, oh, I buy the candy I don't like, so I don't eat it.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to say, like, there's a different way to look at food, and that's what I help people with, to help them look at food differently. And so I just want to kind of say and kind of honor the time we're in right now, and that we're coming up on Halloween, and y'all might be having some feelings about candy, and that that begins to show up.
Yeah. So what's a tip that you could give them to not eat the candy, or just eat one piece instead of 10 pieces? What is something that you do?
Well, what I do is I like to have people really connect back in with their body. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really back to that intuitive eating of, am I hungry? What do I really want? And is this really what I want? Because I find when we eat a bag full of candy, it's not from physical hunger or in honor of our body. And it's more just come back and be aware of your body and what's going on. And am I physically hungry? Am I full? And then if I'm not hungry, what's going on? And I always like to say, oh, honey, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
How come you want to eat all of this right now? You can eat it if you'd like, but what's going on right now that's coming up for you that you want to do this? Because as we talked before about the deeper problems, like what's the underneath part of it? So it's more
Right.
getting inquisitive and asking the questions about
Yeah.
what's going on for yourself.
Yeah. So checking in with your body and your mind, and what's up for me right now. Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I in fear?
Right. Am I
What's
anxious?
up? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. All
Yeah.
those things are super important, and it's like, I call it being a detective, and you're just being a detective trying to go down the road to figure, oh, what's this all about? And
Mm-hmm.
see, that's opposite to what a diet says. A diet says, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Right.
Because I didn't just say don't eat it.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is what's underneath it, and what do I need to do to take care of myself?
Right. Because once you determine what's underneath it, what those emotions are, what you're trying to avoid by stuffing your face with chocolate or whatever, um,
Yeah.
or carbs or whatever,
Whatever. Yeah.
then you might go, you know what? I don't actually want this chocolate, or I'm going to be
Right.
good with one piece versus a whole bag, or, you might change that energy
Right.
and shift and not even want it.
Right. It's looking at how do you want to nurture yourself. We
Mm-hmm.
nourish ourselves with food, and then we nurture ourselves in more appropriate ways.
Yeah.
And food can be nurturing, but it's not what we want to have as our primary source of nurturing, of kind of that self-love and that self-nurturing that we've been talking about today.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And then going into the holidays, we're right around the corner from Thanksgiving, and then Christmas is right around the corner from that too.
Yeah.
So there are a lot more family emotions and stuff can come up during that time.
Sure.
So is it the same type of thing, like checking in with your body when you're at that Christmas party or Thanksgiving, or is there a different, another tip that you can give around?
So another one that I think of when I think of the Halloween's often about the candy thing. As we move into Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think I agree with you. I think a lot about the more the family stuff
Mm-hmm.
and the expectations, and those are those kind of deeper feelings that often are family of origin feelings. And I think of a lot about, and do myself practice, is how am I going to take care of myself? That is a super important question. What are my ways to take care of myself, and doing those on a daily basis? Because how am I going to nurture myself? I think of really simple things like taking a walk.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel good. Getting outside, getting a little sun, makes me feel good. Doing things like writing in a journal, reading a positive affirmation. I have my blog, or my Facebook group. I have a Feed Your Soul Community Facebook group,
Yeah.
and I like to post my little Gabby Bernstein quotes,
Yeah.
and they're positive affirmations, and I get them, and I think everybody's got to read this today. And I love looking at my positive affirmations because it helps remind me that there's a different way of looking at life, and so I'm more shored up when I go into events, when I've done things like my journaling or my positive affirmations or taking a walk outside. And the more shored up I am, the less I have where I'm going to need to take care of myself with food,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm taking care of my emotions in a different way. So
Yeah.
that's what I would suggest, is kind of those, figure out what your basics are that really help you feel stable, and do those.
Yeah. So more self-care, more self-love, giving yourself the things that you really need to feel good emotionally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sleep. Sleep
Absolutely,
is really
absolutely.
important. If you're exhausted, you're going to reach for that bag of chips, or, whatever those things are that feed that emotional, right?
Well, it's also, think about it. When you're tired, what's going to give you a hit of adrenaline is sugar or
Mm-hmm.
caffeine or your
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks things. And it just goes, you go, whoa, okay, now I can do it. And so when we're tired, we'll use food to get our energy up. And that's not right if you're getting your energy up because, I mean, when you use food to give you your energy, absolutely. But when you do it because you haven't slept, you're not hitting the mark. So
Right.
absolutely get to sleep on time, get up on time, make sure you have actually good sleep throughout the night, and that because it dysregulates your body when you
Right.
don't sleep enough or
Yeah.
well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many great tips and such great insight. We don't talk about this stuff enough, like we said earlier, it's like the yo-yo diet. We're constantly trying to put different food in our body to lose weight, but we're not addressing the real core issue.
Yes, ma'am. That is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us about your podcast, how we can get a hold of you, how they can follow you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Actually, Erin was my first interview on my podcast. I've got to give you the link to it. But we talked about confidence, and it was super good. And so it's Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. It is on every podcast platform. Also, I just yesterday put up a what did I call it? I'm going to look over here. Halloween candy piece with food. And so I have a video series that I'm actually giving away. I'll put a link in the I was going to say the show notes, which is from my podcast. I'll put a link down below to anybody who wants it, but it's a free series of short videos that can help you through this Halloween time. I just put it out, so I thought I'd offer it up to all your people, because
Nice.
it's really good stuff, and it gives you more in depth with what we've been talking about. If you are afraid of Halloween candy, sign up, get it. It's going to help you out through the next 7 days until Halloween happens.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then post the link to your Facebook page or your email or whatever to get a hold of you too.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I will.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kim, for being here. This is really awesome. Yeah, really great conversation.
Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate it. I love talking with you, and so
Me too.
it's really fun, and so thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day, Friday, and weekend, and get your report or the thing about your Halloween candy so you can stay on track and feel really good.
And feel good about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Kim, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.